Hey y'all, it is Miss Dale with you today. We are going to be exploring the constituteproject.org. And so we've been talking about the US Constitution and all that it has to offer us and all the crises that have been in question lately. So now we are going to explore reading and evaluating online information and articles. So what I am going to model for you today is predicting online information, questioning, clarifying, summarizing. We're also going to be talking about locating information, evaluating whether it's a good source or not, communicating the information afterwards. We also always want to be asking questions. We ask questions as readers, such as, what surprised me? What did the author think I already knew? What challenged, changed, or confirmed what I already knew about the Constitution in this case, and we're going to determine our importance. So one thing that I've noticed about this Constitution website, first off the bat, constituteproject.org. A good way to determine whether an article or online source is a good place to start is .org or .edu. If you see either of those endings, then it is a government-funded website, and it is usually a very good and valid place to research. If you see .com, it sometimes can be information floating around in the web and is not always trustworthy. You can use .coms, but you really have to be a critical thinker and learner and reader and ask so many questions to see whether this information is accurate or not. So as far as the Constitution, this is called Constitute, the World's Constitutions to Read, Search, and Compare. So first off, right off the bat, what surprised me? The world's constitutions. The S on the end of that makes it plural, so that means there are more constitutions than just the US, which is crazy. We don't think about that a lot. It's also crazy that we have, each state in America has its own constitution. So for North Carolina, we have our own constitution, and right now we're voting on adding or not adding 6 new amendments to our Constitution, which is kind of a crazy thing to see. But yeah, so that's something the author maybe thought I already knew, and it also surprised me. So we're going to explore the constitutions. So this is going to bring up all the constitutions and all the world's constitutions that are out there. And it's gonna be cool because on this website there is a feature to compare. So you can compare side-by-side constitutions. So, for example, how about we compare Afghanistan, which is probably going to be a lot different. My prediction so far is going to be a lot different than the United States of America. So you can go in this corner and you can compare. So as we can see, we both have preambles, kind of cool. Ours starts, like we know, we the people of the United States. This one starts, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Praise to Allah. So Allah is their God. So they started off with, in the name of Allah. So that would be like for us saying, in the name of God. But as we know, the United States, there's a freedom of religion, and they might not have that. Excuse me, in their constitution. So they say, like, for example, believing firmly in the Almighty God, relying on His divine will, and adhering to the holy religion of Islam. So you can see already they may not have a freedom of religion. That's me as a reader predicting maybe what is in their constitution and not. So if you wanted to, you could spend more time really researching the differences, the similarities between both constitutions. Also, if you go back to the main site, there's 2 different things here. There's English and Arabic, which is kind of crazy, surprised me. But you can see there's other little things like freedom of press. What do the world's constitutions say about freedom of press? Discover provisions in 153 national constitutions. That is crazy. So while we are looking at online sources, we're always predicting. So for me, I predicted that Afghanistan's constitution may be all surrounded about Allah, their God, whereas ours is not. It's more centered about government and what citizens' rights. So that's something I predicted. I'm always questioning. I'm going to question, is this a good source or not? We looked, we saw .org, government funded. Pretty sure it's a good source. And we're going to clarify. We're going to see if there is information that clarifies our thinking. And we always want to summarize what we found. So what we found is that Afghanistan is centered around their God, whereas ours is not. We're going to be looking into locating information. So we located the information through here. It's a pretty easy, straightforward way to look at the information. You click on it and you can see it, which brings you to another way to see it. You can compare to. You can go down here and filter what you want to look at. We're going to evaluate the information like when we compared. We evaluated the differences between two. Communicating is big, and it's the step that's after researching and looking at online sources. How are you going to communicate what you have learned to other students, teachers, educators, parents, whomever? How are you going to communicate that? How are you going to use this information to further your research? Asking questions. We always ask questions. We ask what surprised us, so on and so forth, and then we're going to determine the importance. So the importance of this website and the author's purpose for it is to communicate all the different constitutions and rights and amendments that citizens of different countries have, and the differences and similarities between two or more countries. And also, I think you always want to know, who did this author or creator of website create this for? And I think this is for anybody. It would be harder for younger audiences, but it is easy to navigate and pretty straightforward on the information that it holds. But as we know, U.S. Constitution is very complex and a hard thing to read because of vocab and ideas. So I would say this is more for an older audience, but with help, a lot of younger audiences could, in fact, use this. So that's just a little tidbit of how to use online sources, and as critical readers and thinkers, how we go about evaluating whether that is a good source to use for research projects. So I can't wait to see what you guys have come up with your online research, and thanks for listening.